Well, welcome to part 2 of our transition series. You have today with you Brenda Combs, who is the director here at KVEC, and Denny Palme, a due process consultant, transition consultant, and we've worked many years together on lots of these issues. And so as we see the slide that we have before us, we see that the annual goals related to transition service needs need to be connected to the post-secondary goal that has been created on your IEP form. So there's some requirements for this. You always will have to have a box checked, and we'll show you a screenshot later of what that looks like. But you always have to have a box checked for education and training and employment. Those are required. So if you only have one goal, you would check both of those boxes. And sometimes you will need an independent living goal, and you would have another goal checked with that box. So it's just very important on 51F to make sure that you realize that the annual goals support the overall post-secondary goal. And we realize too that when a student becomes 16 years of age, the focus of the IEP, the focal point of the IEP is transition. But we still are having these goals that are going to support that overall transition. So we're checking those goals. We're making sure those goals are going to support successful transition for the students, support that post-secondary goal that they've, been designed for them. And so that's what we would say about 51F in regards to making sure that you check the boxes. And you only have one goal. Keep in mind that you must check both boxes because those boxes are required to be checked at least one time on the IEP itself. So here you have a screenshot from Infinite Campus that shows you exactly where those check boxes are under the goal and where you would make those indications in Infinite Campus. Now you can see that here there's two places it's checked, and it includes both if you only have one goal here. So on the IEP form, there's a specific place to document that an annual goal supports the student's post-secondary goals. On the annual goal page, just under the annual goal and specially designed instruction, you would then look at the above examples. This example shows how the ARC documented and the student's annual goal supports the employment and annual goal training, just like we talked about before. One thing to remember is that the ARC won't check the box that an annual goal supports an independent living post-secondary goal if the student doesn't even have an independent living post-secondary goal. So just keep that in mind. It's only when necessary for those particular ones.
Okay, so when you're looking at the IEP form, there's a particular place that we must document those annual goal supports for the students. So you're looking here on this page, and you see that the arrow is pointed to education and training for the goal number 1, and then on goal number 2, you see that it is marked employment. It looks like education training is too, but my eyes could be bad. But anyway, you only mark one area per goal. Again, like Denny Paul said, if you have only one goal, you're going to have to mark both of those boxes because we have to. It's required below. So these are just some examples. Only education training is documented to support the goal of number 1, and then on goal number 2, you see that it has 2 of them addressed, which is just going to show that that's the only goal that you have. So don't let that goal where it says annual goal, measurable goal 2 up there confuse you. This is just used for us to know that we only have to mark one box per goal, but if only one goal, we have to mark both of those boxes. Here we are, we're looking at age-appropriate transition assessments. A lot of people think assessments are tests. Well, no, not really. So when we're looking at these transition assessments, what we're looking at that's in your IEP, we're looking for data that's used to show what the student has done to see what they want to be in life. Or what are they good at? What do they like? What's their interest? What's their preference? So we're looking at those types of data to support what the student needs. And every year we should be doing something, okay? Don't let that slip by. these assessments, you can do behavior assessments, you can do aptitude tests, you can do interest inventories, just all types of different things, and there's some that are listed as well. But there's all types of things that we must use. And every year we must do something different. We don't want to do the same thing over and over and over every year, because in our ILP, we need to work on that each year. And then once that student is a senior, that student should understand what career path he or she wants to take. And then these are things that actually lead up to their success. So once they graduate, they will have those pieces under their belt, and it will help them to be more successful.
We always like to try to give you some resources, Brenda, and this is one that we've referred to often. This is a site that we have referred to many, many times, and as you can see, we got a screenshot up there of the South Bend Community School Corporation's transition page, and it has right at your fingertips a tremendous amount of resources for you, assessments that you can change, make your own by just copying and pasting them and putting your own name on it, your own district's name on it, and then just using those assessments right at your fingertips. And look, it's really broken down. Middle school, high school, it's broken down life skills, it's broken down for independent living, it's broken down for education and training and employment. It's really a nice layout, and all those links are hot. All you have to do is click on it. So I would really encourage you, after you get a copy of this PowerPoint, or you get if you need to contact us to find out how to get there to this particular site. It's one that we really highly recommend here at KVEC, and it's a great support for us, and it's very key for updating that post-secondary goal annually.
It's also modified very quickly. On this one, you'll notice it has April 24th of this year. So they're going back and they're looking at things, revising, updating, doing all types of things to keep us current.
Yes, it's a really useful site, and we would encourage you to use this one for those transition assessments that you are supposed to be given, that are chronologically age appropriate, and you're giving them year to year to inform your present level, so that you have data in your transition present level. Transition service needs at Infinite Campus. You're going to need to check at least one of these areas, and you're going to need to document this in your present level, what the needs are, what the barriers are that are exist for the particular student, and then you're going to need to address that with assessment information. You're going to need to address that with present level functioning information, and then address some needs there under these different areas. So very, very important that you do that as well, and that you work together on 51G here to create that present level that's going to be alive, and it's going to be pertinent and relevant to what the student's doing right now. And it's not something that you've copied and pasted from year to year, and then you've not really updated it to aid the student in their attainment of the goal. So as we see another screenshot of that, you just on the IEP form, there's a specific place to document these things, and we really want you to make sure that you're addressing these individual pieces as you create this for the student.
All right, so this is 51H, student involvement in the regular review document. The student is invited to the ARC meeting where transition services are discussed. We have to remember at age 14, but we always say 13 because most of the time these students turn 14 during that IEP. So we go ahead and have the transition meeting along with revising that IEP. The student is invited. Now, you invited the student. If the student comes, that is great, because we would like for them to participate as much as possible, because this is their education. They need to know what's going on, and they need to know what we are saying. So we need to make sure that it's visual to them as well. Now, if the student doesn't come, we have to make sure that we discuss with them their preferences, their interests, those types of things, the type of assessment that you might have went over, completed, may go over that, and get some more ideas from the student, because remember, we have to update that transition present level statement every year. It does not need to say the same thing because we have a different assessment that we're doing. So we need to involve the student as much as possible because this is their life.
Yeah, and you know, if the student is invited and does not attend the meeting, we need to document that in the conference summary. It's
Yes.
very, very vital that we capture that discussion. And as a caseload manager or as a teacher at the high school level working with these students, we need to take on the role of a counselor in some ways and make sure that we are keeping up with what these students are doing and that we're informing them, we're having those conversations based on what it is that they're really interested in, what are they capable of doing, having those really good relationship building conversations so that you know we really get something done here with this, and it's not just check the boxes. It's
That's right.
It's really real.
It's real.
And it's something that's going to benefit the student. And so, you know, inviting them, we realize sometimes students can't come, don't want to come. There's many reasons why a student wouldn't attend. But if they do not attend, either you know by virtual means or via you know telephone or whatever, or if they're not there sitting with you, then the regulation says that we're supposed to include their interest preferences, and we do that through conversations and by building that relationship with that student.
If you'll notice, this is your invitation for the student to come. There's different roles that we have to mark, and one of them is student. So they must be invited, even though we may know that they may not attend. They may change their mind. They may show up. So we do need to make sure that we mark that box to invite them. And if they don't show up, then that's where we're going to have to make sure that we're addressing what Denny Paul just said, their interests and preferences, because these students need to have every opportunity that's possible for the teachers to make sure that whatever their post-secondary goal is, that way we make it real, that this is realistic. And that's another thing that we need to talk about is the post-secondary goal. It has to be realistic too. And that's another good reason when you're looking at your transition assessments, you know, we need to tell the students if they think they're going to be something and they may not have the intellectual ability to do that, we don't need to tell them that they don't have the intellectual ability to do that. We just need to say, you know, what is the reason why you want to be a veterinarian? And they may say, because I want to wear a white coat or a white jacket or whatever, lab coat. You know, there's things out there that, yes, you can wear a white lab coat. You may want to be a veterinary, work at a veterinarian and just give the dogs baths, take them out for walks, feeding the dogs, those types of things. And that will suffice for that child just because they want to wear that white lab coat. So, you know, you need to find out the reasons behind why do I want to be that. But make sure that the student is invited every time after the age of 13.
And this is probably also a good place to talk about the fact that we should be keeping up with the ILP along with the counselor in our school, because we can tell you based on our experiences that when the KDE asks for your folders, they're going to ask for a copy of the ILP.
Yes.
And we know that a few years back, the state went away from using the career cruising, and some people picked up Zello, some people are doing paper and pencil, some people are doing their own type of thing. The key here is that the law says that we should have an ILP. And a lot of these, you know, multi-year course of study, a lot of the things that we're doing in post-secondary transition, it really relates back to that ILP and what we've done with that ILP. So we got to keep that going too. And while it may not be exactly our responsibility as a special education teacher, it is in a sense, and it will be expected to produce that when we're being audited. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
All right, so here you'll see that you have a calendar over here, and that is to remind us that we have to update these goals every year. And Infinite Campus actually spits out a year minus a day to keep us in compliant with the regulations, because the regulations actually say 365 days. So in a year. So what we do is we're actually looking at the previous IEP and conference summary that was done, and we look at the date that you had the current IEP, and we make sure that it is within that year. And if it is, then we go ahead and we mark it as a yes. And if it's a no, that means it's not compliant. And there's no way that you can make that compliant because it's already happened. We can't do anything about it. So what we need to make sure of is we need to make sure that we have some kind of a tracking system that says, okay, we're going to have this meeting this day, this, with all of your students to make sure that you don't go over the year. All right, so the ARC should document the annual review of the IEP that has to include the post-secondary goal by stating that the meeting date and the anticipated review date of the IEP. And by checking the last IEP date against the current IEP date, that is how we're going to look at the timelines. That's how we look at that to confirm it. So just note, as a student's ILP or IGP, when you're looking at low incidence students, make sure that it's updated annually so that we can reflect it back into your education training and your employment goals, so that each student post-secondary goal in the IEP can be updated. Again, we're going back into the transition assessments. We keep talking about that because it's very important, because that is one piece that we get our baseline data from, and we have to update that. Remember, current data and your present levels is 1 year or less, so we have to make sure that that reflects that 1 year or less. The student's goal will remain, if it's going to remain the same, it can, but sometimes students may want to change that. So, and if it does, we need to change it, but we also need to document that in the conference summary that they have decided they are changing their post-secondary goal to whatever that they want to be, whatever career they want to go to.
Okay, so just to kind of recap, the post-secondary goal annually, we realize that, we've been through some audit situations, and we've been through some folder reviews, and we've been involved in the processes that are related to cleaning up some of these folders and getting them back into the state so that they will pass the audit and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so when we realize that updating the goal annually goes beyond, like you just said in the previous slide, it goes beyond just meeting the timeline. There has to be something done with that present level. That present level's data and the testing that we do, the assessments that we do, the ILP update that we do, all needs to work hand in hand so that we can have an informed present level and that we can have goals that are appropriate and have that student on track to graduate, and also then to be able to transition to post-secondary life, something they're going to do after high school that we're going to help them with. So, we must document all that. And, there's lots of places where we have to document. We have to document a discussion of multi-year course of study. We have to document a discussion with the student if they're not involved in the ARC meeting itself. There's lots of things that we have to document, but this is another area where we have to really, really key in on the documentation and make sure that we're doing more than just meeting the timeline, that we're in fact providing the assessment the students need, looking at the goal really hard, seeing if it's still appropriate. If it's not, make a change. If it is still appropriate, say that in the conference summary. Yeah. Here, we see that we have what we would refer to as a transition present level. And we wanted to put you up an example of what a present level might look like. And you see that the transition needs have been checked. Instruction and employment have been checked. So we're going to address those on this current IEP. We also have up in the little cloud or box there that has been provided for us, those are what's required in the present level. And these are required for transition, just like they're required for academics or general intelligence. Anytime the box is not checked, to say that the student is commensurate, it's not a need or concern at this time, or the student's not 14, then, we've got to adhere to identifying strengths. We've got to adhere to identifying the needs, and what we're talking about here is the barriers in instruction and the barriers in employment here, because we've identified those as the needs of this student. And then you also see the age-appropriate transition assessment data that needs to be there, and then the performance and evaluation data that would support that as well, because sometimes you would include, if they have some cognition issues or if they have some academic issues, you would include some of that stuff as well. So we really wanted you to see, just a real good example. And it's, it starts out with Jimmy is currently 16 years old in the 10th grade. Is currently on track to graduate. Okay, that's very important. That we make sure that that we know that they're matriculating, they're moving through the grades, they're persisting towards graduation, and and then he's explored jobs, and you can see that this is color coordinated for you, so you can see the performance evaluation data. He's explored jobs, his personal interests, and preferences by completing transition assessments of and things for the ILP, and also the student and parent interviews. And then per that data, we see that he had 3 different things that were identified. We identify those, and then we start to think about what is the barriers to attaining this goal. And so then we look at his strengths. What does he do well in regards to how that applies to being able to do these jobs? And then we see if there's any barriers or any gaps in learning that are going to need to be addressed. And so that's what we would then identify here. So you see the orange part with the needs, and you see the real pinkish looking part with his strength. So you see this is the same way we would do if we were doing an academic performance piece. Sure. And so this becomes the focal point of the IEP at the high school level. So it's very, very important. Now I can't tell you over the last 4 or 5 years that Brenda and I have worked on these things together how many times we've seen when we review files, maybe ahead of time if we're doing some proactive work, that there would be present levels that have no data, no wording, just a box checked and move on. So I'm telling you right now, that's not going to meet the mark for us as we move through, and we need to really pay attention to this and really use these resources that we have provided for you. And we'll make this available to you if you need it. We'd be happy to do that. So you continue to see even more, and you see how they've broken it down, and they've put the instruction up there as one area of need, and they've been able to identify the strengths and the needs and some of the performance data and those kinds of things. And they've also done that for employment. So this is a really nice way to lay it out, Brenda. And I think visually it helps us to see that they've checked that box for instruction, they checked that box for employment, and we've addressed it with some real data that is really going to speak to updating that goal annually. It's really going to speak to where that student's functioning. It's really going to identify the barriers that we need to address as we work with these students at the high school level.
Okay, so after review of the updated assessment information, we must discuss the goal and the appropriateness of the goal, if it should remain the same or will it change due to the information changing. So again, you're looking back at the transition assessments, you're looking back at the student growth, all the data that you have on that student within that 1 year, and determine, can the student still perform, and still the post-secondary goal can still be performed, and if not, what are those barriers, what can we do about those barriers, and go with that. And remember, documentation in the conference summary is a must. You have to explain it. It's like recording. You record it, and then you might want to copy it down because there's a lot of information going on, is what I'm trying to say. You don't record it. But anyway, you just need to make sure that all that documentation is in there in that conference summary. And that helps whoever reads it when we go out to look at these due process folders and we're doing record reviews, that we can see that, oh yeah, this has been updated. You look at last year's, you look at this year's, they've had assessments, they've updated it, they've put in the current data. It's not the same as it was last year and the year before and the year before. We've had some of those. We've had some that have been the same all 4 years. So we don't need that. We don't want that. That's not the right thing to do for students, because remember, this is their life. This is their education. And we want them to be successful when they leave school.
And from a compliance standpoint, it's a free appropriate public education that we're supposed to be providing. And these are clearly in the law. We've already talked about the regulations in the last session. And we know, Brenda, that so many times we just want to make sure that we understand that we're not copying and pasting. that we're staying away from that dirty phrase that we talk about lots of times,
Right.
and we'll see, and it's easy to pick up on when you're reviewing files from year to year and just seeing that things are being copied and pasted. We realize you have big jobs. We realize you have lots to do and lots of things on your plate, but certainly we want to make sure that if we're using the copy and paste feature on our computer, that we're cleaning up the data, we're cleaning up the names, we're working to make sure that we're putting new information in there, and particularly in this focal point of the IEP for the high school level, we've got to make some real changes to that present level every year, and we have to inform it with data. And the State Department is huge on data, whether it be academic performance pieces, whether it be your social and social and emotional piece and your adaptive behavior, or whether it be your transition. They want to see numbers associated with some of this activity, and some of this data needs to be in place so that it can really drive our decision making and really help us to see if these students are making progress toward, receiving a free appropriate public education, and also making progress in the general curriculum as well.
Okay, so now we're talking about Indicator 13. This is a compliance process. So KDE must annually report data collected on these indicators. There are 18 indicators that they have to report on, and this goes to OSEP, which is Office of Special Education Programs, which is a branch above KDE. And if they don't make the compliance, then they get put on a corrective action plan too. So we don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that when we are doing our IEPs, that we are addressing everything, not only transition, but everything in there, and that we are putting in the most current data, and that we are writing goals from that current data, so that we can make sure that these students are making progress. And if they're making progress, that is a real good thing, because we're getting them closer and closer to that post-secondary goal. And then once they reach the 12th grade, and once they go through that graduation line, that they can smile and say, this school did everything they possibly could to make my transition more successful to either employment or a career path or a college path. So we need to be doing a lot of things, and one of them is to make sure that we do have compliant IEPs.
It's a robust plan that we're trying to go for. It's a plan that's going to really have some teeth in it. It's a plan that is going to be supported by transition fairs and trips to colleges. And we realize we're operating under a pandemic right now, but we can do some of this stuff virtually. We can still continue to have these robust plans, and so the compliance process itself is huge for KDE. As we report to OSEP, this indicator 13 is a federal indicator.
Yes.
That's why we're able to use a website like South Bend, which is in Indiana, because the information and the requirements are exactly the same in Indiana as they are in Kentucky. And so we really want to point that out.
All right, so again, this is still on the compliance discussion. So again, KDE, they are required to report on student due process records. And the federal program is wants to make sure that all students are receiving FAPE. They want to make sure that we can graduate students to where they're going to have something after they leave the program, after they leave your high school, that something is there for them, that they're not just going to go home and sit on the couch and watch TV and eat potato chips, because that's not what an education is for. That is not what post-secondary goals is all about. Post-secondary goal is getting those students out into the workforce, whether it be a career or going to college. And we want to make sure that these transition pieces are done correctly. We want to make sure that the accommodations are there, because for students that are going to continue their education, they need to take that IEP to the college, to the disabilities coordinator. They need to take that plus their latest psychological report so that they can receive the accommodations while they're in college. So that gives them a more level playing field while they're in college. And we want to see students succeed.
Yeah, Brenda, and you and I have been at this quite a while. I won't point to
We
our
won't
age.
tell them how many.
No, I won't tell them how many years, but between us, almost 3/4 of a century.
Yes.
We'll just put it that way. And we've seen some changes emerge through the years since we started teaching. And, with the reauthorization of IDEA in 1997, it really put this into place, and it really has required districts to comply. And we feel like it's a good process in regards to if you do get a desk review or you do get, even receive a cap, that there's growth in our districts, and we view it not as a punitive thing, but we have a year to really get in there and work with you and fix these things. So this compliance discussion is really laid out in the first little bit of the record review document, and we could point you to that. But over the next little bit, we're going to talk about some things that are some of these items on 51A through 51I can be corrected with an ARC meeting or with a some type of amendment to your IEP. Then there's some areas that are not as easy to fix, and if you get a couple of those in your district, you get a systemic issue, you're going to have to receive some training. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit as we move forward here, just kind of letting you know some of the things that you really want to be vigilant about and you don't want to make a mess up on. And then there's also some things that KDE encourages us before we send the folder to fix if we can.
Fix it.
And so we're really wanting to share that with you as we move through it. The slide that you see before you has to do with the random selection of folders. We know that they pull at least 10% of the records for students 16 and above. And a few years back when I was director, Brenda would come over and we would get together on this, and I would always want her extra set of expert eyeballs on my files and on our files as the district that I was working in. And so we would pull all the names of the 16 and above kids that we had, and we would either alphabetize them or reverse alphabetize them, and we would make a randomization of the selection so that we were getting a cross section of the students. And it's really required, and we have to put a little explanation in. So we're not just picking on you. We're not just saying we're going to take 2 from here and 2 from here or whatever. We need to take 6 from this teacher or 3 from this teacher. It's not that way at all. It's 10% of the records, 16 and above. So we go through and we select every other one or every 2 or every 3, depending on how many we have. And some districts are obviously larger than others. And so that's really how the randomization works. We just put all the names down. We either put them in reverse or in straight alphabetical order, and then we'll go every 2 or every 3 or every 4, whatever it requires to get 10%. And then we'll look at those files and see, and we make a report on that every summer. And if we find things that are systemically wrong, we have to report on those things. And so we really want you to do a good job as you work to complete this random selection. Now, random also means the records are selected from a variety of schools, teachers, case managers, and categories of disability. Random review is one way for the district to ensure accuracy. If the district is chosen for consolidated monitoring, there's a far greater likelihood that the KDE's record review will match the results of the district's review. They do randomization when they come in and do a consolidated monitoring visit, just like we should be doing each and every year as directors, and that we should be preparing for that. And so we want this to be timely and accurate, and we want to make sure that we're getting a cross section and getting a good representation of what's really going on in the district. So we randomize the process. As we pick out files, we realize that some student records will have violations that can be remedied. We have some things like if you forget to check a box, or if you forget to put a particular item in the post-secondary goal. There's some things that you can fix, and the record review document really lays out exactly those things that you can fix, prior to submission. So if remedied prior to submission to KDE, the violation is considered corrected. it is not reported in the district's data report as non-compliant. In most cases, it will be necessary for the district to convene an ARC to remedy the violation. So we would encourage you to do it the right way. Then we don't have to worry about it. And there's, like I said, there's things that you can fix. And it may be easier even to talk about the things that you can't fix. And then that would then point out the things that you can fix.
Only indicator 13 items can be corrected prior to submission on the data to the KDE. If the record is corrected prior to submission to KDE, then the record is considered compliant. So we don't have to go back and fix anything. And they encourage that. So if they do send you some student ID numbers and they want you to send them the IEP for transition, then I would first look at them or contact us, and we'll come out and we will look at those, and if we find anything wrong, then we'll discuss that with the director and the teacher, and then we will have let them have a meeting to correct that. And then the director will upload the corrected IEP. So, and that's legal. That's legal, and that just saves KDE from having to send out and saying it's not compliant, you'll have to fix it. You've already fixed it. So, so they encourage that.
And in the fixing, you're learning, right?
That's right.
So
we learn every day.
Yeah, you're learning what not to do and what to do and that kind of thing. So it is a good process. And
sometimes it's just something that we've overlooked. You know, we may have done something and we may have got interrupted or whatever. Things happen in IEP meetings. So, and we know that. We've been teachers ourselves. We've been directors ourselves. So we know the possibilities, believe me. But examples of the violations that may be remedied, they include 51A, which is failure to document post-secondary goals in the IEP. That means we can go back and we can create that post-secondary goal based on the transition assessment data that you have and any other data that we need for that goal. On 51B, now we've had a lot of this, and I can tell you why. Infinite Campus changed, and now when you're writing that the goal, the post-secondary goal, you've got to go in there and you've got to click to add your services, where in the past we did not have to do that. So we had some blank ones. There were nothing in there for transition services. So, you know, we had to go back in there and get them to fix it. So just make sure that you're aware of where you go to click to get the transition services to add to those post-secondary goals. But it's fixable. On failure to document all items that are left blank outside the agency, invite to the ARC meeting to discuss transition. Sometimes where it says, you know, when you're 16 years of age, you either have to invite someone, and sometimes we forget to check the box. So we need to make sure that we've got the box checked. If there's nobody that's needed to be invited, then you check that box, not needed at this time, and go on. And then again, you've got the failure to the student's multi-year course of study. Sometimes we have the word elective or some other word in there. We can't do that. We have to make sure we have the specific course. And we can go back and we can change that. So those are things that we can change. Those are changeable. We can go back in there and fix those and upload that and send it to KDE.
And you know, Brenda, one of the things that I would like to say too is you know, if we refer to that record review document and we know if we're a high school teacher, if we're a middle school teacher working with 14-year-olds, if we know what's required by looking at the record review document, we regardless of what Infinite Campus does to us with their changes and glitches, we have to reach out, talk to someone, try to figure it out, because this information has to be documented.
Yes.
You can't just pass it over because Infinite Campus made it difficult to get to. And,
not an excuse.
And so, you know, again, it's a federal indicator. It's a compliance piece.
It is required.
But it's also a good process. And so we want to encourage you that if you do have problems with Infinite Campus, you can't get something to go in, try to reach out through the proper channels. You know, talk to your director, talk to us. You know, and let's try to work together to make sure that we've got as much of the documentation that we And this is a process that allows us to even make a mistake and come back and circle the wagons a little bit, so to speak.
Okay, so on this one we have corrections of noncompliance. These are continued from what we were doing just a minute ago. So you're looking at item number 51F. This is failure to link annual goals to related post-secondary goals. Remember, that is the boxes that's underneath your goal that tells you if it's either employment or training, and then independent living if necessary. So, we have to make sure we check those boxes, and we have to have one of each. And if the child has independent living goals, then we're going to have all three boxes checked. And we can only provide one checkbox per goal, unless you have one goal. So we can fix that. Failure to document evidence of transition assessments. That's if you forgot to check a box or check boxes that are in your transition assessment. So that's fixable. We just have to have a meeting, check the box, and go on. So the next one is 51H, and this is where we are. The student you're supposed to invite the student to the ARC meeting. So sometimes we just forget to check the box. This is where we can go back and check it, because if you look at your conference summary, the student has signed. If the student signed that they were in attendance, they were there, we just forgot to check the box. On 51I, this is where you have 1 year to make sure that you update your goals. And so this is another thing that we can actually fix. We may have had one in there last year and we forgot, somehow just overlooked and didn't put it in there or whatever. We can do that. So those are the fixable compliance items that we can actually fix with an ARC meeting. You just can't go in there and change it. You have to have a meeting. Okay, here we are with violations of IDEA that are reported as non-compliance. Some violations in IDEA identified during the district's record review cannot be remedied in individual student records due to the nature of the violation. These must be reported as non-compliant in the district's data report that goes to KDE. So we have some examples, corrections of non-compliance. So when you're looking at examples like on 51D, inviting an outside agency to ARC meetings prior to obtaining a parent consent. And we've talked about this previously in our last training. But anyway, we have to make sure that if we invite an outside agency, that we get the permission of the parent or the child if he's 18 years or older. We have to get consent prior to sending out the ARC notice. So we just need to make sure that we do that. If that isn't done, there's no way we can go back and do that. So there's no way of fixing that.
Right.
So we don't want to cause any issues with that. But that is one of those that we just cannot fix. And then when you're looking at the, is that 51I? So updating your post-secondary goals, sometimes that missing the timeline for updating post-secondary goals annually, there's no fixing that, because you only have 1 year to write it, and if you go over that, then there's nothing you can do about it. But you do have to have the meeting, even though you go out of timelines. You're just out of timelines. Right. And when you have the next meeting after that, then hopefully you'll be back in timelines.
Right. And Brenda, with the consent to invite the outside agency, it's very important to realize too that when the student turns 18, they have to give their consent as well.
That's right.
And so it's very, very, very important to realize that, and to make sure that we have all these things done by the time that they turn 16.
All right, so corrections of non-compliance. So through these violations, some of them can be remedied, some of them cannot be remedied, but we must remedy the ones that we can. The ones that we can't, we're just going to have to take the hit on it and go on. But the focus here is that when we are sitting down and making our draft IEP, and we're looking at this transition, that we have the time, that we don't have interruptions, that we can stay focused so that we can develop the best IEP that we can for this student. Because remember, these are people, these are students, these are people that we want to do well after they graduate. We want them to come back to us and tell us all their success stories, and it makes us feel so good that they do this. So we just need to make sure that the ones that we can correct, we correct it, and then the ones that we can't, we just have to go on. We just have to bite the bullet and go on. We don't want systemic issues. Systemic issues is if 2 students or more has the same issue with their IEP. So we try to stay away from that. We try to stay away from a lot of things, but sometimes we just can't, and it happens. It happens to the best of us. There's none of us that can write a perfect IEP, or I've not seen one yet. So, so anyway, we just need to make sure that we take the time and that we try our best to stay focused on writing these IEPs and the transition that goes along with it, because there's a lot of pieces that go with it.
There's lots of pieces that go, and this particular area, Brenda, is kind of cut and dry. It's not really really subjective when you get to this part, and it's kind of black and white, but there are some areas where from time to time we may think one thing or do something else or whatever, but we feel like we've got a handle on this process, and we want to share that with you, and that's why we wanted to do this series, and we wanted to make sure that we got this out as we head into a new year here soon. And we really want to think about the support that we're able to give you, and making sure that that we're here for you, and that we want you to if you're out there and you need questions answered, just please reach out to us. We realize that you guys are important, and we realize that we're here for you, and we hope you realize that we're here for you. To the question section, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, or you can send them to us through email. Always CC your director if you send us an email, and let's keep everyone in the loop so everyone knows what everyone knows. And we're happy to share our information with you on this next slide. As you can see here, Brenda Combs, Special Education Director, Denny May, Due Process Consultant. Brenda Combs' email, not on the slide, but should be. I'll tell you what it is. It's brenda.combs2@hazard.kyschools.us, and my email, Due Process Consultant and Transition Consultant here at KVEC, my email is denny.may@pikeville.kyschools.us. I also want to show you some other fine folks that we work with on a daily basis, and we put this little slide together. All of these folks that are willing to help you with whatever particular issue you may have, whether it be compliance, whether it be transition, whether it be IEP development, or on the instruction side, where we have literacy consultants and math consultants, and then we also have folks that work with low incidence, and we have folks that work with behavior, and just a solid group of people, and one of the most solid groups of people that I've ever worked with in terms of being able to help and willing a hand, and being able to jump in and do what needs to be done at the particular time, no matter what the job is. And so we wanted to share that with you. We wanted you to see each one of these folks. If you need to contact any of these folks, you can contact us first, let us know, and we can get you in contact with the right people. As you see, we have, like I said, all areas covered, and very well covered.
Even our outreach people. We do have
outreach people as well in the low incidence areas. Hearing impaired, vision impaired folks. So that Tony Harden and Heather Hall work very hard with us as well. And so we have. Anytime you get to naming people, you might slip up and leave somebody out, but I don't think I have now. I think
I
I've got
don't
everybody.
think- I
Thanks
think
to
we've got
that's
everybody.
that's why Brenda and I make a good team. We
That's right.
remind one another frequently that we forget things, and
It's not our age.
so at any rate, if you have questions about transition, please reach out. Please contact us. Let us come out and help you, and do your jobs as if you were, working with your own kid, and look at them, those people on your caseloads as being your students and being your students and your children, and I think you'll come out way ahead in the long run. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.